This video is sponsored by Boxu. More about them later. In my never-ending quest to play Pokemon in as many silly ways as possible, I tried a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Platinum without ever using a move of the same type as my Pokemon. That means that, for example, my starter Chimchar isn't allowed to use his Fire-type moves. Since this is a Nuzlocke, if one of my teammates faints in battle, it's dead forever, and I can only catch the first Pokemon I find on each route, even if it has no usable moves. Here's the rest of the rules for this playthrough, but with that, let's hop to the first fight against my rival Jay. Despite catching 5 Pokemon by this point, the only ones with usable moves are Subaru the Chimchar and BMW the Zubat. Can you figure out this run's nickname theme? It's a toughie. After swiftly defeating Mr. Walker, I snagged Dodge the Geodude from Orberg Gate, as well as the HM for Rock Smash, which is the linchpin for my expertly crafted plan against Rourke's rock types. See if you can follow me through this. Step 1, use Rock Smash. Step 2, repeat Step 1 until all 3 of Rourke's Pokemon are dead. By intentionally not evolving Subaru, I've got 3 Pokemon that can use Rock Smash, so I was pretty confident in our ability to pull out a win, especially since Rock Smash has a 50% chance to drop our foe's defense, which will drastically reduce the number of hits needed to get KOs. Unfortunately, I forgot that all 3 of Rourke's Pokemon are holding Covert Cloaks, which prevent Rock Smash from getting those defense drops. Now, I know you're probably thinking that the Covert Cloak was first introduced in Generation 9, so there's no way that any of these Pokemon are actually holding one. But let me ask you, what's more likely, that there's a rift in the space-time continuum and Covert Cloaks were somehow retroactively added to Pokemon Platinum, or that I somehow hit 11 Rock Smashes in a row and not a single one got a defense drop? Do you realize that the odds of that are less than 0.05%? This might be the unluckiest thing to ever happen to me, though it's also possible that I'm blocking out some extremely bad memories from earlier videos. Fortunately though, even with that extraordinarily bad luck, we're able to dust ourselves off, rise to the occasion, and defeat Rourke. Just kidding, Geodude crits Jeep, Cranidos crits Dodge, and Onix crits Subaru, so I wipe. Well, technically I reset before I fully wipe because my precious ego wouldn't be able to stomach losing to an Onix of all Pokemon, but Jeep would have died to Stealth Rock Chip on the switch in here, and then neither Hyundai nor Kia have a way to deal damage without using stab moves. But you know what they say, if at first you don't succeed, complain about it and repeat the same strategy until it eventually works out, because nothing bad that happens to you is your fault. It's just the universe out to get you specifically, the main character of human existence. By the time I get back to Orberg City, my team looks a little different in Attempt 2. Most notably, I now have Fiat the Shinx, who obviously doesn't have Intimidate, why would she, and Nissan the brave little Psyduck, who now gives us a 4th Rock Smash user. And upon her yellow feathered back, we will ride to victory over Rourke's unexpectedly oppressive rock types. Jeep 2 kicks off the rematch, and though things start out a bit bleak by Geodude dodging 3 defense drops, a 4th Rock Smash after he heals finally causes that mythical drop. So from there, we stage our comeback. Dodge takes the kill on Geodude, and without getting crit by Cranidos. Okay, well that's fine because 2 Rock Smashes get the KO on Rourke's Ace, so all we gotta do is finish off Onix. And hot off the assembly line, Nissan is the gal for the job. Rock Smashes whittle away at the cobblestone monstrosity, and there's nothing that can stop her from smashing Onix one boulder at a time until victory is finally ours. No words do justice for the sadness I feel in my heart. Nissan is a legend, a hero, a savior, and we shall never forget the sacrifice she made on this day of shadows, of sorrow, of mourning. And yet it is through the darkest clouds that light shines brightest. For though Nissan no longer waddles this earth, Subaru is able to come in and at long last take the final KO against Rourke and win us the first gym badge. Thanks for everything, Nissan. With the new level cap, a few of my teammates evolve, including Subaru, who is now no longer allowed to use Rock Smash in battle. From Valley Windworks, I snagged Kia the Pachirisu, a rare but ultimately useless encounter without her stab electric-type moves. The significantly better encounter comes from Route 205 in the form of Maserati the Buizel. You'll see why soon enough. In Eterna Forest, I catch Opal the Wormpole, who conveniently evolves into Dustox, one of the few non-flying types that can learn Gust, which gives me the perfect answer into to Gardenia's grass types, though admittedly my team has plenty of answers into her. It is Opal who takes out Turtwig, but since Cherim then sets up a Leech Seed, I have Subaru come in to take the kill with a few returns. Roserade then is easily walled by BMW, now a Golbat, who can get the kill with a few bites. And if you see BMW chowing down on Roserade and think, I could go for a tasty snack myself, well, first seek help because that's a very weird line of thought, but then you should consider the sponsor of this video, Boxu, a premium Japanese snack subscription that brings authentic treats right to your doorstep every month. The first Boxu you'll get is called Seasons of Japan, and every subsequent Boxu has its own special theme. I just got the Onsen Nights Boxu, which has some of my favorite Boxu snacks yet. Crunchy grilled edamame with truffle salt, and butter mochi senbai that melt in your mouth, and a delicious omiyasen caramel sand cookie. I would sacrifice Garchomp FJ in a heartbeat if it meant I could get another one of these bad boys. Hey, what the heck?
No, dude, you don't understand. It's like a really good cookie.
Each Boxu comes with a cultural booklet that guides you through your culinary journey, and that discovery of new treats is half the fun. I got my brother Boxu for the holidays last year, and he loved it. It was the perfect way to give him something I knew he'd enjoy for months. So if you want to be like me, minus the morally fraught cookie obsession, and give the gift of authentic Japanese snacks, click the link in the description and use my code FLYGON to get $15 off your first Boxu order. Thanks so much to Boxu for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to the challenge. Next up is the battle against Commander Jupiter, and the difficulty of this fight is directly proportional to how many critical hits her Skuntank gets. So since she doesn't get any, I guess A1 Rourke stole all her luck, we drive away from the fight completely deathless. Before leaving Eterna City, Cynthia thrusts an egg upon me, which hatches into a Togepi en route to Hearthome City. Volvo isn't really usable at this point, like he basically can't learn a single move that isn't normal type for quite a while, though mark my words, eventually we'll bring him back into the fold. Similarly, Mitsubishi, the adorably adamant Eevee, joins the ever-growing list of seat heaters as I prepare to face off against Fantina. It's actually Maserati who will be our answer into the third gym leader's ghost types. At the level cap of 26, Maserati evolves into Floatzel and learns Crunch. So the 80 base power dark type move is more than enough to one-shot Fantina's lead Duskull, which bodes well for the matchup against our French foe's ace, the significantly scarier Miss Magius. At this point in the game, Floatzel is one of the few Pokemon that naturally outspeeds the Witchy Ghost, so we're guaranteed to do big damage with a super effective Crunch here. But if we don't get the KO, Miss Magius will retaliate with a super effective Magical Leaf, which could very easily be enough to kill my frail Weasel. So as Maserati unleashes a Crunch, I pray that her power is enough to save her life. Okay, well yeah, a critical hit will do it for sure. If you're curious, I ran the calc after the battle, and Crunch was never a kill, but neither was Magical Leaf, so Maserati was only dead to a critical hit, and I mean, come on, like, those never happen. Anyways, Crunch also obviously kills Haunter, so that's a clean sweep from Maserati. But Fantina's piqued my interest in ghost types, so before heading to Veilstone City, I backtrack to the old chateau and catch Genesis the Ghastly, though her only purpose is to ensure that I can catch Infinity the Duskull from the Lost Tower on Route 209. Yay, Species Claws! Now, even though there are a handful of additional encounters I can get, it's around here where I remember that catching Pokemon is just about the least enjoyable part of playing Pokemon, so the only other teammate I get is Polestar the Adamant Porygon, who I can immediately upgrade into a Porygon 2. I also decide to evolve Mitsubishi into Leafeon. Definitely my favorite evolution, and she also happens to be a pretty solid answer against Maylene's Lucario. First though is her Meditite, who Maserati runs down with 2 crunches, and does so at full HP thanks to a miss from Rock Tomb. Silly Maylene relying on Rock Tomb? I would never. As Lucario comes in second, I switch to Infinity on a Drain Punch. He then eats a Metal Claw for less than 50% and retaliates with Curse, which is not a ghost type move. It's actually whatever this is. Infinity's Curse takes 25% of Lucario's HP at the end of each turn, so all I gotta do is bring in Mitsubishi, tank a few hits thanks to her phenomenal defense stat, and use Dig, first to let curse damage rack up, and then to take the KO on the following turn. Good job, you objective cutie. Machoke is last, and though Mitsubishi doesn't do quite enough to snag the KO, she does do enough for BMW to come in and clean things up with a return. So that's 4 badges down, and after 2 extremely powerful evolutions, it's a fast turnover to the fight against Crasher Wake. He leads with Gyarados, and I lead with Polestar, whose trace ability copies Gyarados' Intimidate. That's right, Wake, fear my bald shiny duck. The result of this is that it's very safe to switch to Mitsubishi on a Waterfall, who takes nothing. Okay, well, not ideal, but it's fine, because by holding a Pecha Berry, Mitsubishi can nail Gyarados with a quad-effective Electric-type natural gift, cleanly getting the K. Come on, Mitsubishi, I said you were my favorite. You gotta act like it. Well, that throws a wrench into things, since Wake now heals and I can only use Natural Gift the one time. But Mitsubishi still gets her mark with a quartet of bites, though we now have significantly less HP than I was expecting as Floatzel takes the field. Since he has Ice Fang, I switch to Infinity, who then baits Crunch so that Polestar doesn't get frozen on the switch. They do get a defense drop, which is unfortunate, but as long as Floatzel doesn't crit on the following turn, it shouldn't matter. Great! After our Citrus Berry activates, Polestar fires off a Shockwave, which isn't enough for the KO. Unless it crits. Great again! That makes things quite a bit easier, since now it's just Quagsire, who we chip away at with Maserati before bringing in the fully evolved Subaru on a Yawn. And with Gardenia's gifted TM for Grass Knot, Subi takes the first of what I can only assume will be many KOs to win us badge number 5. But now that we've made it to Canalave City, we have a bit of an issue. And I don't mean our rival Jay. The only one of his Pokemon that's any trouble is his Heracross, and we can just kill him with an Aerial Ace from Super. As I was saying, it's actually Byron who's the problem. No, seriously. Normally, any halfway decent fire or water type can take care of his 3 steel types. But since my fire and water types can't use their stab moves, I've got no way to deal meaningful damage to his Steelix or his Bastiodon. My best bet then is to catch a new teammate, and I decide that an Octillery who can learn Flamethrower would be the perfect answer to Steelix. So first I go to Route 219 in order to check off the Magikarp dupe. And with that dupe, I can now guarantee Mazda the Remoraid from Route 212. As the battle against Byron begins, he leads with Magneton, so I send out Subaru to take the KO with an Earthquake. Then Steelix comes out, and I pivot through BMW on his Earthquake, such that Mazda switches in on the much weaker Ice Fang, with a held Asperberry ensuring that she can fire off a Flamethrower on the following turn. It's not enough for the KO, but Steelix doesn't do much with his second Earthquake, so after some healing, a few more Flamethrowers get the KO and bring in Bastiodon. This crusty Titan is a little tricky since he knows Metal Burst, but Infinity can hit him with a Will-O-Wisp, which ultimately Will-O-Wisp seal his fate, even if it does take a while. Since Bastiodon's set up with Iron Defense, our Fire Punches do basically nothing, but as we do that, Byron just spams Taunt for like 7 turns in a row, and I really have no idea why. Like, I've never seen the AI do this, but I guess Byron isn't usually around for long enough to see this happen. Anyways, after 7 turns of using Taunt, Byron finally uses Stone Edge for 22 whole damage, and then a combination of Infinity's 8th Fire Punch and a final tick of burn damage wins us the battle. That was a weird fight. But now we've made it to Sinnoh's northernmost village, Snowpoint City, and Mazda, as our only Flamethrower user, ain't gonna cut it against Candace. So it's finally time to bring Volvo out of the garage, who with the shiny stone from Iron Island can fully evolve into Togekiss. I don't love that secondary flying typing, but we'll have to make it work. As the battle begins, Candace sends out Sneasel, and I lead with Polestar. The hope is that a Choice Spec Signal Beam is enough to get the KO, but it isn't, so Polestar Polestar takes a good chunk of damage from 2 feint attacks, the second of which crits, before getting the first KO of the fight. Abomasnow is second, and with that critical hit, we're now baiting a random move, so the switch to Volvo is a bit scary since Candace could go for Avalanche instead of Woodhammer, and of course she does, so that's cool, but since Volvo is bulky enough to tank the non-boosted hit, he can just get a one-shot on the next turn with Flamethrower. That brings in Piloswine, so I switch to Infinity on a Stone Edge that misses. Candace then doubles back with another Stone Edge, which makes no sense since this thing also knows Earthquake. Infinity really seems to mess with the enemy's AI. Anyways, our Zoom Lens boosted Will-O-Wisp neuters the piggy, so Infinity can stay in, tank an Earthquake, and do solid damage with Fire Punch. Then on the next turn, I switch back to Volvo on what's sure to be another Earthquake. Oh, come on! Why though? Look, why Avalanche? Fortunately, Volvo dodges a crit, so he can snipe Piloswine off with another Flamethrower, leaving Candace with her most dangerous Pokemon, Frostlass. Unless I want a Volvo Popsicle, I gotta switch out to Mazda. A Blizzard doesn't do much, but then Frostlass starts setting up Double Team, meaning that this just got super scary. Psych, Mazda is the GOAT. His first Flamethrower not only connects through the evasion boosts, but it also burns Frostlass, once again sealing our foe's fate. Even with the Citrus Berry, all we gotta do is connect with one more Flamethrower, which after taking a nasty Shadow Ball, Mazda does not do. But surely Jeep 2's now got this in the bag. Yes, she comes in on a random Psychic, the worst possible move she could switch in on, but all she's got to do is tank another Psychic and then connect with a Rollout. Oh wow, she actually did it. Damn! Good job, Jeep 2, way to go. And for the record, Jeep 2 is simple, not unaware, so yeah, she just clutched up huge. That's the 7th gym badge, baby. Which means that it's time to put an end to Team Galactic's plans for world domination, or whatever they do in this game. Along the way, I snagged the Reaper's Cloth and the Dubious Disc, which can evolve Infinity and Polestar respectively. There's an argument for not evolving Polestar since Porygon Z's extra speed and power does come at the expense of Porygon 2's considerable bulk, but the last time I didn't evolve my Porygon 2, I was immediately punished as they missed out on the kill against Cyrus's Honchkrow and then got crit killed by Drillpeck. So I'm not making that mistake again. This time, Polestar is free to just switch in on a feint attack. Oh my god, are you kidding me? Okay, that was wow. Well, a Thunderbolt now does indeed get the clean KO, so I managed to win the fight against Cyrus at Galactic HQ completely deathless. Next is the Spear Pillar multi-battle against Mars and Jupiter, a fight that is usually more annoying than it is difficult. Jay's Munchlax is at best useless, so this is effectively a 2v1 until he leaves the field. And you know what? We gotta go turn by turn here so that you can see how truly useless this 230-pound toddler is. He's like an umbrella in a hurricane, or logic on the internet. I lead with Volvo, planning to snipe off Jupiter's Bronzor with a Flamethrower, though we come up frustratingly short, meaning that our foes get up both Reflect and Light Screen before Jay hits the 1 HP Bronzor with a Screech. Great job, dude. Our second Flamethrower gets the KO, as Mars's Bronzor then hits Volvo with a Limp Gyro Ball, though it's gonna do a hell of a lot more damage next turn because my teammate hits them with a Body Slam that paralyzes, thereby quartering Bronzor's effective speed and supercharging Gyro Ball. Jupiter brings in her ace, and what happens next is possibly the most RNG-heavy turn I have ever experienced. Skuntank's Poison Jab lands a critical hit onto Volvo and causes a poison. Then our Flamethrower burns Skuntank, thank you Serene Grace, as Munchlax sets up a pointless stockpile before Bronzor gets fully paralyzed, preventing them from firing off a Gyro Ball that would almost certainly have killed Volvo with the subsequent poison damage. I don't even know whether that turn was lucky or unlucky or just kinda net neutral. Regardless, Volvo is not dead, so I guess I'll take it. I switch to Infinity, who shrugs off a second Poison Jab that manages to poison yet again. After another dumbass stockpile from Munchlax, Bronzor gets fully paralyzed for the second turn in a row, so now I switch to Subaru on a Night Slash. But unfortunately, after Munchlax flops the waste of carbon atoms that he calls his body into Skuntank for some minor chip damage, Subi gets hit by a Confuse Ray from Bronzor, so I have to switch back to Infinity on another poison jab. At the very least, Jay has Munchlax hit Bronzor with a Screech, which is objectively not totally useless. And then, with one final switch to Subi, Munchlax rallies for a second consecutive turn of marginal utility by eating a poison jab and then taking the KO on Skuntank with a body slam. So, after also shrugging off a resisted Gyro Ball from Bronzor, that just leaves Jupiter with her Golbat. I then switch to Polestar as Golbat hits Munchlax with a Sludge Bomb, our rival ends his utility streak by whiffing a Screech, and Bronzor yet again gets paralyzed. So a Thunderbolt then cleanly kills Golbat, making this a 1.5-ish via 1, as Munchlax goes for Swallow, and Bronzor forces another switch with Confuse Ray. This time I go to Maserati as Munchlax... I hate him. I truly hate this Munchlax. A crunch from Maserati barely doesn't kill Bronzor, which lets Munchlax hit them with another pointless Screech before he eats another Gyro Ball. But then, on the following turn, the unthinkable happens. Jay switches Munchlax out. Our long national nightmare is over! Munchlax is gone, and in his place is the slightly more useful Rapidash. Praise be there is a god. Another crunch kills Bronzor, so now it's Rapidash and Maserati versus Mars's Perugly. In a state of manic euphoria from no longer having to deal with Munchlax, I stay in, thinking Maserati is completely and utterly safe to hit Perugly with a massive return. It does just enough damage to trigger the Fat Cat Citrus Berry, but then Slash comes out, and a critical hit kills poor Maserati. Oh hey, thanks for the Will-O-Wisp there, Rapidash. Maybe next you can head to the morgue and vaccinate some corpses. Maserati was a speedy beast, and it is brutal to lose her here. Since coming online for the fight against Fantina, she's been a team staple. She's displayed beauty with performance and power with elegance, and she's a friend I won't soon forget. With 2 more Thunderbolts, Polestar gets the KO on Maserati's Killer and Mars's Golbat. So with that, we turn our attention to the final fight against Cyrus in the Distortion world. This matchup is tough. Very little outspeeds his ace Weavile, and the rest of his team is nothing to laugh at either. Fortunately, we can start things off on a high note as Subi takes the kill on his lead Houndoom with a single Earthquake. That baits in Gyarados with Waterfall, so I switch to Polestar, who takes way more damage than I was expecting. But importantly, they do not die, meaning we can get another Oko with a Thunderbolt. And since Honchkrow gets baited in third, he too falls to a single Thunderbolt. That brings in Weavile, Cyrus's biggest threat, so it's back to Subi on a Night Slash. We also resist Weavile's subsequent Ice Punch, which generously doesn't freeze, and let Subaru connect with a Zoom Lens boosted Rock Tomb, which now grants us the speed advantage. Our second Rock Tomb brings Weavile down into the red, triggering his held Citrus Berry as Ice Punch number 2 does another chunk of damage. So now, not wanting to risk a miss, I switch to Jeep 2, who should easily tank an Ice Punch, get frozen solid, and then take the KO. Wait a minute. Damn it! Fine, I switch to Volvo on the Night Slash, which crits, and then finally kill Weavile with an Aura Sphere. That just leaves Cyrus with his Crobat, so BMW comes in for the mirror. Though we don't outspeed, we do know Zen Headbutt via Move Tutor, which lets us easily take the 2-hit KO and win the battle against Cyrus. So with the world's oldest 27-year-old defeated, it's time to get the final badge of the Sinnoh League. Volkner's electric types are typically easily thwarted by a few Earthquakes, and though Subaru has enough juice to one-shot Jolteon and Raichu, I'm a little less confident in our ability to take out Electivire. So, not wanting to risk my starter to a rogue critical hit, I switch out to dodge the Golem. Remember him from the fight against Rourke? Good times. Anyways, he easily shrugs off Fire Punches and... No, not the burn. Just kidding, we have a Rossberry, world's best Nuzlocke right here, baby. Double Edges do solid damage to Electivire, so just a few turns later, he falls and Volkner is down to his final Pokemon, Luxray, who does have Ice Fang, but Dodge is definitely bulky enough to survive. Wow, yeah, that was a gross overestimation of Dodge's bulk, I guess. R.I.P. buddy, I really was not expecting a death here.
I guess you could say he didn't dodge the critical hit.
That's so insensitive. Have some respect for the dead. His body's not even cold yet. Actually, it probably is. Get it? Because he died to an ice vent? Oh, shit! Well, Subaru can come in and hit Luxray with an Earthquake, but it's not quite enough for the KO, so he fires off a Thunderfang, which does well over 50%, meaning that I inadvertently risked another critical hit there. I guess it was more of an underestimation of how strong rivalry Luxray is, huh? Nevertheless, Subi lucks out, and with another Earthquake, victory is ours. Which means we've made it to the Pokemon League. There's still one last fight against Mr. Walker, but he doesn't pose much of a threat, though I will say it feels pretty damn good to burn Snorlax after what he put us through atop of Spear Pillar. Eat shit, big boy. Anyways, here's my final team, all leveled up to level 59 to match the level of Lucian's Gallade. It's an odd squad to be sure, but I've got faith that one way or another, they'll be able to make it to the Hall of Fame. So let's get started. The first member of the Elite Four is Aaron, and with Thunderbolt, Polestar one-shots his lead Yanmega and baits in Heracross. A switch through Infinity on a close combat ensures a safe switch to Subaru on a Night Slash, who then gets the KO with an Expert Belt boosted Aerial Ace. That brings in Drapion next, so I fire off an Earthquake, instantly regretting it as our Earthquake does not get the KO, letting the Ogre Scorpion retaliate with a devastating super effective Aerial Ace for like 50 damage. I kinda forgot that Drapion is actually pretty weak when it comes to raw power. Anyways, Scizor is fourth, and ironically I gotta switch out my fire type and bring in Volvo. He eats a pretty strong Iron Head, but then unleashes a Stabless Flamethrower for yet another Oko. All that's left then is Vespiquen, but a quad effective Ancient Power slays the Monarch and wins us the battle. Bertha is second and can normally be swept by any special attacker with grass or water type stab, though here we'll need ever so slightly more finesse. Against Whiscash, I lead with Polestar, who uses Choice Specs Ice Beam for massive damage, though not enough for the one-shot. Fortunately, Bertha opts to set up Sandstorm, so one more Ice Beam gets the KO. Since Bertha's team doesn't have any Pokemon with super effective moves into our pure normal type, she just brings out her Pokemon in team order. And to be clear, I know that's a gross oversimplification of the Gen 4 Switch AI, which is extremely elaborate, but regardless, Polestar can now take 2 more one-shots on Glysaur and Hippowdon. Fourth then is Golem, who grants me the perfect switch, first into Volvo on an Earthquake, then into Mitsubishi on a Thunder Punch, and finally into Subaru on a Fire Punch. From there, ultra-powerful Grass Knots slice through Golem and Rhyperior like a pair of perfectly cooked fish fillets, netting us a riskless victory. Next up is Flint, but he's got nothing for Subi's monkey powers. Not even Flint's own monkey is enough to stop our Simian's primal rampage. Flareon manages to get off a cheeky quick attack, but much to my surprise, even Flint's Ace Magmortar falls to a single Earthquake, resulting in an easy dub over the penultimate member of the Elite Four. So last is Lucian and his psychic types, meaning it's time for BMW to earn his keep. With an Expert Belt boosted X-Scissor, he easily kills Mr. Mime, but Espeon is a tad bulkier, and if he misses out on this KO, a super effective Psychic will easily get the revenge kill. But the risk is worth the reward, so X-Scissor number 2 comes out, and we get the KO. That means that Skinny King Alakazam comes out third and also gets one shot by another X-Scissor. Bronzong is fourth though, so this is where BMW taps out, using U-turn for solid damage and a switch to Volvo on a soft Psychic. With a Choice Specs, Flamethrower then gets the kill, leaving Lucian with his final Pokemon Gallade. I start with a switch to Infinity on a whiffed Stone Edge. Gallade then outspeeds to hit a pretty nasty Psycho Cut, but it's not nearly enough to stop Infinity from neutering him with a Zoom Lens boosted Will-O-Wisp. A neutral priority Sucker Punch on the next turn does huge damage as Gallade goes for a now much weaker Psycho Cut. The Burn Tick triggers Gallade's Citrus Berry, so not wanting to cause a heal after another Sucker Punch, I opt to switch back into Volvo on a critical hit Psycho Cut. Then all I gotta do is— oh shit, Gallade is faster? Well, that was terrifying, but fortunately I'm unpunished for my stupid mistake, and Volvo lives to fire off a Shadow Ball for the KO. All that's left then is the final fight against Cynthia. Just 6 more Pokemon until we've made it to the Hall of Fame, but they're some of the hardest in the game, and I have a feeling that we're gonna need to make some sacrifices. Cynthia leads with Spiritomb, so I start with Volvo, who can fire off a flamethrower for just about 50%, and a critical burn that ensures we'll get the KO on the following turn. Dark Pulse does a decent chunk of damage since we're not a fairy type yet, and then we do indeed get the kill with a second flamethrower. That brings in Cynthia's Togekiss, who's faster and nails Volvo with a super effective shockwave, though our Choice Spec's flamethrower does about the same amount of damage. But with Cynthia holding on to like 6 full restores or whatever, this honor battle isn't gonna go our way, so I switch to Infinity on another limp shockwave. Air Slash on the next turn does significantly more damage, and it flinches, so now on the following turn I gotta risk a critical hit. Air Slash number 2 comes out, and Infinity hangs on with 15 HP. A Thunder Punch does great damage, but it's just not enough for the kill. So Cynthia uses one of her aforementioned full restores, and Infinity's second Thunder Punch brings our foe back down to around 50%. A quick look at my team confirms what I already suspected. I gotta let Infinity go down here. My only answer to this Togekiss is Polestar, but since they're also my only answer into Cynthia's Garchomp, I can't risk them taking any damage. So Infinity stays in, hits a priority Sucker Punch, and then falls to a Shockwave. Rest well, my king. Infinity's sacrifice means that Polestar can come in and get the revenge kill with a Thunderbolt. That brings in Lucario, so I switch through BMW on an Aura Sphere, such that with a U-turn, I can bring Subi in on a slightly less powerful Stone Edge. Then an Earthquake finishes off Lucario, though that brings in Cynthia's next problematic Pokemon, Milotic. We've got Grass Knot for super effective damage, but I'm skeptical that it's enough to one-shot the tanky fish, so first I gotta do some chip damage. U-turn takes a chunk of HP and grants a switch to Mitsubishi on a resisted Surf. Then she can use Natural Gift to hit Milotic with a super effective... Oh right, she has an Ice type Natural Gift, not an Electric type one. That was a pretty dumb mistake to make, though at the end of the day, it doesn't change much. Even with a bit more damage on Milotic, we'd still be facing the same issue. Despite a miraculous 1 HP survival from Ice Beam, there's nothing I can do here but let Mitsubishi go down. She's baiting a random move, so I can't safely switch to Subaru lest she comes in on a Surf. Candidly, Mitsubishi was not the best Elite Four bring, but I so desperately wanted her to make it to the Hall of Fame. And even though she still probably will, it breaks my heart that it's at the expense of her life. I'm so sorry, little one. I'll see you on the other side. Subi comes in and avenges Mitsubishi's life with one final Grass Knot. Milotic falls, and Cynthia brings in her beastly ace Garchomp. I use U-turn for a tiny bit of chip and bring in Polestar. They're holding a Focus Sash to ensure we survive the hit from Dragon Rush, and with just enough investment to outspeed, Polestar fires off a quad-effective Ice Beam. The only question is that enough for the kill? It is! With that, Garchomp falls and Cynthia is down to her final Pokemon, Roserade. I switch to BMW, who shrugs off an Energy Ball, and then with a Zoom Lens boosted Zen Headbutt, we get the clean KO, winning us not just the battle against Cynthia, but the entire run. Honestly, save for a few tricky fights, I'm surprised at how simple that challenge was, but playing through Platinum is still a lot of fun, and it's great to get to use some of my favorite Pokemon. As always, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, it'd be great if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Or don't, I don't know. But I do know that you should follow me on Twitch to keep up with streams of my current ROM hack challenges. Stay tuned for more Nuzlocke videos, and until then, remember to always, always, always play around the critical hit.